Every year, millions of Americans board long-haul flights to Asia carrying the same expectation that the country they've dreamed about will look, feel, and function the way it appeared in the photographs, the documentaries, and the stories told by people who went years ago. Some of those expectations are met, others aren't, and when the gap opens up, it opens up at the scale of an entire country. A misread country isn't a bad afternoon. It can be 2 weeks and several $1,000s that didn't go the way you planned. In today's video, we're ranking 11 Asian countries that tourists consistently regret visiting, and for each one, we'll tell you exactly where to go instead. A different country in the same region that actually delivers what you came to Asia for. Stay with me because the country at number 11 is one of the most hyped destinations in Asia right now, and the gap between its marketing and its reality is one of the widest on this entire list. Number 11, the Maldives. The first country on this list is built almost entirely on a single image, an overwater bungalow above turquoise water, steps leading down to a private lagoon, complete silence. That image is real. Everything else about the trip is more complicated than anyone told you. The Maldives is genuinely one of the most beautiful places on Earth. The reef systems, the coral, the color of the water in the right light, none of it is exaggerated. If you want to spend your days directly above the Indian Ocean with nothing between you and it, no place does that better. The question isn't whether it's beautiful. The question is whether the experience justifies the full cost, and for a growing number of senior travelers, the honest answer is no. On paper, the Maldives is the ultimate luxury island escape. In practice, it's a destination with almost no cultural infrastructure, no towns worth visiting, no local food scene, and a price structure that assumes unlimited budgets and no interest in leaving the resort perimeter. The Maldives consists of over 1,000 small islands, most containing exactly one resort. That resort is your entire world for the duration of your stay. There's no town to wander into, no local market, no restaurant that isn't run by the hotel, and in most cases, no way off the island except by speedboat or seaplane to Malé, which itself offers limited appeal. The seaplane transfer from Malé to many outer atolls costs between $300 and $600 per person round trip, a charge often revealed after booking. Meals and activities at resort rates compound the daily cost to levels many travelers describe as shocking, even when they expected it to be expensive. The reef systems that made the Maldives famous have been under sustained pressure from warming and bleaching events. Several celebrated dive and snorkel sites are in significantly degraded condition compared to older travel photography. Travelers who arrive for the marine life sometimes find it reduced from expectations shaped by years-old content. For senior travelers specifically, the absence of any infrastructure outside the resort means a medical event requires evacuation by speedboat to a local atoll hospital, seaplane to Malé, or in serious cases, medevac to India. Travel insurance is not optional here. It is the single most important piece of planning the trip requires. The Maldives delivers one experience at world-class level, sitting above turquoise water in complete privacy. If that's the primary goal, it earns its position. If the goal is Asia culture, food, history, genuine engagement with a place, it earns nothing, because it isn't really Asia at all. It's a constructed environment that happens to be located there, the alternative for travelers seeking overwater luxury at a fraction of the cost. Raja Ampat, Indonesia, a remote archipelago with reef systems still among the finest in the world and a fraction of the Maldives per-night rate. Have you been to the Maldives? Did the reality match what you expected, or were there things you wished someone had told you before you booked? Drop it in the comments. Number 10. Nepal. From an island nation where the problem is too much luxury and too little substance, to a landlocked country where the opposite is true, extraordinary natural substance inside a framework that demands more physically than most senior travelers anticipate. Nepal contains 8 of the world's 10 highest mountains, including Everest. That fact shapes every conversation about the country before a trip and after, because the Himalayas are the entire reason most Americans fly there, and the Himalayas are also the entire problem. On paper, Nepal offers the most dramatic mountain scenery on Earth, a spiritual culture rooted in Buddhism and Hinduism, and landscapes that exist nowhere else. In practice, reaching those landscapes requires physical capability and altitude tolerance that a significant proportion of senior travelers discover they don't have until they're already there. Kathmandu sits at roughly 1,400 meters, equivalent to Denver. That's manageable for most people. The popular trekking destinations are not. Namche Bazaar, the gateway to Everest Base Camp, sits at 3,440 meters. Base Camp itself is at 5,364 meters. The health risk at these elevations isn't a matter of fitness, it's a matter of how individual bodies respond to reduced oxygen, and that response can't always be predicted in advance. Acute mountain sickness affects a substantial proportion of high-altitude visitors, regardless of age or physical condition. Symptoms include headache, nausea, dizziness, and in serious cases, fluid accumulation in the lungs or brain conditions requiring immediate descent. Helicopter evacuations from the Everest region are a regular occurrence and cost several $1,000s without insurance. Kathmandu has undergone rapid development since the 2015 earthquake, and the reconstruction hasn't always been kind to its historic temples and squares. Thamel, the main tourist district, has become a density of trekking gear shops, tourist restaurants, and persistent commercial activity that many visitors find exhausting. Infrastructure outside Kathmandu and Pokhara drops off significantly. Road conditions in mountain areas can be poor, power outages are common in rural zones, and medical facilities are concentrated in the capital. Nepal is extraordinary for travelers with the physical capability to engage with its terrain. For senior travelers who want Himalayan scenery without altitude risk, Bhutan offers a compelling alternative, a small Buddhist kingdom with dramatic mountain landscapes, extraordinary monastery architecture, and a managed tourism experience that includes local guide infrastructure as standard. Bhutan's main tourist areas sit at significantly lower elevations than the Everest trekking zones. Number 9. Cambodia. From a landlocked Himalayan kingdom to Southeast Asia, to a country whose single greatest monument is one of the most significant human structures ever built, and whose surrounding experience doesn't always live up to it, Angkor Wat is not overrated. The largest religious monument ever constructed, the main temple, the surrounding complex, the tree root-covered galleries of Ta Prohm, the Bayon stone faces, they are genuinely among the most extraordinary things a traveler can see anywhere in the world. The regret around Cambodia isn't about Angkor, it's about everything around it. On paper, Cambodia offers a UNESCO archaeological wonder, a complex modern history, and Southeast Asian culture at its most distinct. In practice, the country's tourism infrastructure has developed unevenly around its single most famous attraction, leaving travelers who arrive expecting a fuller experience frequently disappointed. Siem Reap has been so thoroughly reorganized around visitor throughput that it has almost ceased to function as a Cambodian town. Pub Street and its surroundings are an entertainment district built for volume bars, souvenir shops, and tourist restaurants that bear almost no relationship to Cambodian food culture or daily life. Phnom Penh offers important historical context through the Tuol Sleng Genocide Museum and the Killing Fields Memorial. Both are significant and worth visiting for travelers who want to understand Cambodia's recent history. Both are also deeply emotionally taxing. They require a different kind of mental readiness than most travel days involve. Beyond these two cities, Cambodia's infrastructure drops off significantly. The coastal areas around Sihanoukville, once relatively unspoiled, have been developed extensively by Chinese investment over the past decade, and the character of the town has changed considerably from what older travel accounts describe. Serious medical situations typically require evacuation to Bangkok, making comprehensive travel insurance non-negotiable for senior travelers. Cambodia is worth visiting specifically for Angkor 3 days, with an early morning start on the first to beat the crowds, and a knowledgeable guide for at least the first day. For travelers who want Southeast Asian temple culture in a country with stronger all-round infrastructure, northern Thailand provides Chiang Mai's extraordinary temple circuit, better food, better healthcare, and a tourism infrastructure built over decades rather than years. Number 8. The Philippines. From mainland Southeast Asia to an archipelago, a country of over 7,000 islands, most genuinely beautiful and most considerably harder to reach than the photographs suggest. The Philippines is home to some of the most visually stunning islands in Southeast Asia. The limestone karst formations around El Nido in Palawan, the rice terraces of the Cordillera Mountains, the whale sharks of Oslab. The natural content is genuinely world-class. The logistics of getting between those things is the part that rarely makes it into the content. On paper, the Philippines offers tropical island paradise, world-class diving, and a warm English-speaking culture. In practice, it's an archipelago where the gap between the Instagram image and the travel day required to produce it can consume more of a trip than most visitors budget for. Moving between major destinations typically involves domestic flights between Manila and regional airports, followed by van transfers and boat rides that add half a day or more to every major journey. A trip from Manila to El Nido involves a domestic flight to Puerto Princesa, followed by a 4 to 5 hour van transfer on roads that are improving but still variable, or a smaller prop plane to El Nido's own airstrip that operates on a limited schedule. Manila itself is a city most visitors use purely as a connection point, not unfairly, as traffic congestion is severe and intramuros, while interesting is the primary attraction in a sprawling metro area that otherwise presents significant navigation challenges. The typhoon season, roughly June through November, brings the possibility of disrupted travel across large parts of the archipelago. The Philippines sits in one of the most active typhoon corridors in the world, and itinerary flexibility during this period is essential. Healthcare outside Manila and Cebu is limited, and medical evacuation from outer islands can itself be complex during poor weather. The Philippines rewards travelers with time, flexibility, and tolerance for logistics. For senior travelers who want Southeast Asian island beauty with fewer logistical layers, Indonesia's Lombok and the Gili Islands offer comparable turquoise water and reef access in a more contained geography, shorter transfers, easier to navigate. Number 7. Myanmar. From a complex archipelago to a country whose regret isn't primarily logistical, it's ethical, political, and in some respects, a matter of personal safety. Myanmar was, before 2021, building a reputation as one of Southeast Asia's most compelling travel destinations. Bagan's Plain of ancient temples, the floating villages of Inle Lake, the hill tribe cultures of Shan State, the country's cultural depth was, and still is, genuinely extraordinary. The situation surrounding it is not. On paper, Myanmar offers some of the most historically significant landscapes in Asia. In practice, the military coup of February 2021 has produced a country the U.S. State Department currently advises against visiting, where tourism revenue flows to a government whose actions toward its own population have been widely condemned, and where the security situation has become unpredictable. The State Department has maintained a Level 3 advisory, reconsider travel for Myanmar since the coup, citing civil unrest, arbitrary enforcement of local laws, and limited ability for the U.S. Embassy to assist in many parts of the country. Some regions carry a higher Level 4, do not travel designation. Practically speaking, the tourism infrastructure has deteriorated. International flight connections have reduced. Foreign bank cards no longer function reliably in ATMs. Internet access has been subject to government restrictions. The tourist services that existed before 2021 have not recovered. The ethical dimension is separate but significant. A meaningful portion of tourism revenue from hotels, transport, and entry fees flows to businesses connected to the military government or to the government directly through state-owned enterprises. For senior travelers who visited Myanmar before 2021 and want to return, the honest advice is that the country they remember is not currently accessible in the same form. Myanmar's cultural richness remains extraordinary, but the conditions for visiting it safely and ethically are not in place. Travelers drawn to its ancient Buddhist temple culture will find the most direct alternative in Sri Lanka, an island nation with no equivalent political concerns, its own extraordinary ancient cities and temple complexes, a well-developed tourism infrastructure, and landscapes ranging from highland tea country to southern beaches. Number 6. China. From a country where political concerns shape the decision to visit, to the world's most populous country where the barriers are primarily logistical, but significant enough that a high proportion of Western senior travelers find the experience more difficult than anticipated. China contains some of the most significant historic sites on Earth: the Great Wall, the Terracotta Warriors, the Forbidden City, the Karst Mountains of Guilin. They're among the genuine wonders of the world. The planning to reach them, however, requires more than it used to. On paper, China offers extraordinary ancient civilization with a modernized infrastructure that makes internal travel efficient. In practice, Western travelers in 2025 and 2026 face a specific set of logistical barriers, payment systems, digital access, language gaps, and visa requirements that require deliberate preparation and catch a significant number of visitors off guard. China's payment ecosystem has shifted almost entirely to mobile payments, WeChat Pay, and Alipay. Cash is increasingly difficult to use in cities. Foreign credit cards are not accepted at a wide range of establishments. The solution requires setting up a Chinese mobile payment account linked to a foreign bank card, a process that has become somewhat easier but still requires advanced setup and occasional troubleshooting that's complicated. Without Chinese language capability, the Great Firewall blocks Google Maps, Google Search, WhatsApp, and most Western social media platforms. Navigation for independent travelers requires either a VPN whose legal status for foreign tourists is ambiguous, or Chinese alternatives like Baidu Maps, which operate in Chinese by default. For senior travelers who rely on familiar digital tools, this adjustment is more demanding than it sounds. The language barrier in China is more significant than in Japan, South Korea, or Singapore. Outside major international hotels and tourist sites, English signage and English speakers are limited in ways that make independent navigation genuinely challenging. China's visa process has become somewhat more streamlined, with visa-free access extended to U.S. citizens for stays up to 30 days as of late, 2024. But policies have changed repeatedly and should be verified close to travel dates. China is worth every logistical effort for travelers drawn to its ancient sites, but only for those who prepare thoroughly, book a reputable guide service for major destinations, and accept that the digital infrastructure they rely on at home will not function the same way here. For travelers who want East Asian historical depth without these barriers, Japan's Kyoto, Nara, and Hiroshima offer Buddhist temple culture, extraordinary food, and a tourism infrastructure built for easy, independent navigation. 6 countries. 6 different ways Asia can fall short of the dream logistics that consume the experience. Infrastructure that hasn't caught up with the marketing, physical demands that nobody adequately warned about, and, in at least one case, a situation that has changed the nature of the destination entirely. But look at what every single one has in common. They're famous because something real and extraordinary is actually there. The Maldives water is real. The Himalayas are real. Angkor Wat is real. The Great Wall is real. The gap isn't about the places themselves. It's about the distance between what was promised and what the system surrounding those places actually delivers. The next 5 countries don't have that gap. What they promise, they deliver, and in most cases, more completely than anything on the first half of this list. Number 5. Georgia. And from here, everything changes. Starting with a destination in the South Caucasus that most Americans couldn't locate on a map a decade ago, and that's quickly becoming one of the most discussed travel discoveries in the world. Georgia, not the U.S. state the country, sitting between Russia, Turkey, Armenia, and Azerbaijan, at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, with a culture, cuisine, and landscape that belong entirely to itself. Georgia is widely considered the birthplace of wine. The tradition of fermenting grapes in clay vessels buried in the earth dates back 8,000 years here, and the local wine culture, built around grape varieties grown nowhere else, produces flavors entirely distinct from anything in European viticulture. The landscape ranges from the semi-tropical Black Sea coast to the dramatic high Caucasus Mountains in the north, where ancient stone tower villages cling to ridgelines above river gorges. The capital, Tbilisi, is a beautifully layered city of carved wooden balconies, Persian-influenced bathhouses fed by natural sulfur springs, Orthodox churches dating back to the 5th century, and a contemporary food and wine scene that has developed rapidly in recent years. For senior travelers, the practical case is strong. Georgia is one of the most affordable countries in Europe or Asia. Meals, accommodation, and wine all cost a fraction of equivalent experiences elsewhere. Healthcare in Tbilisi has improved substantially. English is increasingly spoken in the capital's hospitality sector. The major sites are accessible without demanding physical effort. Georgia delivers wine culture, mountain scenery, ancient religious architecture, and extraordinary food in a country almost entirely without the crowds that have overtaken equivalent experiences elsewhere. It's one of the most compelling travel discoveries currently available to an American senior traveler. Number 4. Sri Lanka. From the Caucasus south to the Indian Ocean, to an island nation off the southern tip of India that packs an extraordinary range of landscapes, cultures, and ancient sites into a geography small enough to cover comprehensively in 2 weeks. Sri Lanka has the geographic advantage of being small enough to actually experience fully in a standard trip. From the ancient cities of the Cultural Triangle in the north, to the tea highlands of the Central Mountains, to the whale-watching coast in the south, to the elephant reserves inland, the country is compact enough to move between these zones without the transit days that consume so much of a trip to larger Asian countries. The Cultural Triangle, Sigiriya, Polonnaruwa, and Anuradhapura, contains ancient royal cities and Buddhist complexes dating back 2,000 years. Sigiriya's rock fortress, rising nearly 200 meters above the surrounding jungle with 5th-century frescoes still visible on the cliff face, is one of the most dramatic ancient sites in Asia. The climb to the summit is significant, but the surrounding complex can be appreciated substantially from the base. The hill country around Ella and Nuwara Eliya is one of the most scenic landscapes in South Asia. Tea plantations, carpeting mountains, waterfalls dropping through jungle, and temperatures meaningfully cooler than the coast. The 9-arch bridge at Ella, over which a colonial-era train still passes through forested hills, is one of those travel images that genuinely looks the way it does in photographs. The south coast between Marissa and Tangal offers whale watching of consistent quality. Blue whales are sighted here more reliably than almost anywhere else in the world, along with beaches less developed than Thailand's, and more accessible than the Maldives. Healthcare in Colombo is the strongest in South Asia, outside India's major cities, and the country's compact size means evacuation to the capital from most tourist areas is manageable. Sri Lanka is one of the most complete travel destinations in Asia. Ancient history, mountain scenery, wildlife, beaches, and extraordinary food, all within a geography that doesn't punish you with days of transit between them. Number 3. Taiwan. From the Indian Ocean to East Asia to an island that most American senior travelers have never considered, despite delivering one of the highest quality travel experiences available anywhere in Asia. Taiwan is one of the most consistently underappreciated travel destinations in Asia for Western visitors, and one of the most consistently praised by travelers who actually go. Extraordinary food culture, high-speed rail, genuine safety, and a density of interesting destinations within a compact island geography create a travel experience that rewards every day of the trip without the logistical friction that defines so many larger Asian countries. The food culture centers on night markets, open-air dining environments, where hundreds of stalls serve dishes that define the island's culinary identity. Taipei's Shilin Night Market is the most famous, but the markets in Tainan, Taiwan's oldest city, regarded by food writers as the island's culinary capital, offer a more local and arguably more rewarding version of the same experience. Taiwan's high-speed rail connects Taipei in the north to Kaohsiung in the south in under 2 hours, with stations serving the major cities between them. This makes Taiwan one of the easiest large islands in Asia to navigate independently, a meaningful advantage for senior travelers who want flexibility without the complexity of domestic flights or long bus journeys. Taipei's MRT metro system is clean, air-conditioned, bilingual in English and Mandarin, and consistently ranked among the best urban rail systems in Asia. The abundance of Western-style pharmacies, hospitals with international patient departments, and English-speaking medical staff makes it one of the most accessible destinations in East Asia for senior travelers managing health considerations. Taiwan consistently ranks among the safest countries in Asia, with low crime rates and a culture of public helpfulness toward visitors. It's the most underrated destination on this list. Number 2, Jordan. From East Asia to the Middle East to a small kingdom containing one of the most extraordinary archaeological sites in the world, a landscape from another planet, and a tradition of welcoming visitors woven into the culture at every level. Jordan is the most senior-friendly destination on this list. Petra, the ancient Nabatean city carved into rose-red sandstone cliffs, is the reason most visitors come, and it earns every description ever written about it. The walk through the Sikh, the narrow canyon that leads to the treasury's carved facade, is one of those travel moments that no amount of prior reading fully prepares you for. Petra's scale is enormous. The full site requires multiple days, and most visitors see only the treasury and the main street on a single rushed day. The monastery, Al-Dir, sits at the end of a long climb and is as impressive as the treasury with a fraction of the crowd. The Roman-era colonnaded street, the royal tombs, the hillside high places each rewards the time spent reaching them. Wadi Rum, the desert valley southeast of Petra, is where Jordan's landscape becomes almost impossible to describe without sounding hyperbolic. Red and orange sandstone formations rise from a sand floor in shapes that look more like a painter's invention than a geological reality. Jeep tours and overnight camps in Bedouin-style tents make the desert accessible without demanding physical effort. The Dead Sea, the lowest point on Earth's surface, where salt concentration so high that floating requires no effort, is a uniquely gentle physical experience. Many senior travelers find genuinely therapeutic. The resorts along the Jordanian side are comfortable and well-equipped. Jordan is consistently among the most stable and safest countries in the Middle East, and its tourism infrastructure is mature, English-speaking, and built around making visitors comfortable. The food, mezze, lamb dishes, the national dish mansaf, and extraordinary fresh bread is among the finest in the Arab world. For senior travelers specifically, Jordan is one of the most complete and comfortable destinations in Asia. Number 1, Japan. And now one country left. The one that earns the top of this list not by being the most exotic or the most dramatic, but by doing every single thing a traveler needs, at a level of consistency that no other country in Asia matches. If you've been following this channel for any length of time, this isn't a surprise, and that's exactly the point. Japan has earned its reputation as the finest country in Asia for senior travelers through something that sounds simple but is actually extraordinarily rare. It delivers on its promises, every one of them, consistently. The food culture, from a bowl of ramen at a counter stall to a multi-course kaiseki dinner in a centuries-old inn, operates at a standard of craft and care that is, by wide consensus among food travelers, unmatched anywhere in the world. A convenience store breakfast in Japan is better than most restaurant breakfasts elsewhere. This is not a mild exaggeration. It's a fact that surprises visitors every time. The transportation network is the best in Asia. The Shinkansen bullet train connects Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, and Hiroshima with a punctuality measured in seconds. The Japan Rail Pass, purchased before departure, unlocks a country-wide network that makes independent travel genuinely accessible for senior visitors without any special expertise. Stations are bilingual, platforms are clearly marked, and in nearly 4 decades of Shinkansen operation, there has not been a single passenger fatality. Safety in Japan is, for most practical purposes, absolute. Violent crime against tourists is so rare as to be statistically negligible. Items left behind in taxis are returned. Lost wallets reappear at police boxes with their contents intact. Senior travelers can move through cities, including very late at night, without the vigilance that other destinations require. Healthcare is excellent and widely available. Major cities have hospitals with international patient services. Pharmacies are comprehensive and clearly organized. For senior travelers managing ongoing health conditions, Japan's medical infrastructure provides a level of reassurance that few Asian countries can match. The cultural depth is inexhaustible. Tokyo alone could fill a month without repetition. Kyoto's temple circuit rewards weeks of slow exploration. Kanazawa, the intact Edo period city on the Sea of Japan coast, which we discussed in an earlier video, delivers the Japan that everyone goes to Kyoto hoping to find, without the crowds. The countryside, the ryokan inns, the onsen hot spring culture, the gardens, the ceramics, the textiles. Japan has built centuries of craft and aesthetic tradition into every corner of daily life. And the Japanese concept of omotenashi, anticipating a guest's needs rather than simply responding to them, means that the hospitality you encounter here isn't service in the transactional sense. It's a cultural commitment to making you feel genuinely cared for, which is a different thing entirely. What Japan offers, ultimately, is consistency. Not the most dramatic landscape in Asia, that's probably Nepal. Not the most ancient history, that might be China or India. Not the most exotic culture, there are arguments for several others. What Japan offers is every element of a great trip, delivered reliably, without the gaps that define the experience in so many of the countries earlier on this list. That's what this list keeps returning to. Asia is extraordinary. Its history, food, landscape, and culture are among the most compelling on Earth. But the distance between what a destination promises and what it actually delivers, for senior travelers especially, who've planned carefully, saved deliberately, and flown 12 hours to be somewhere, is the only measure that really matters. Japan closes that gap every time. And that brings us to the end of the list. 11 Asian countries, the ones that consistently disappoint when expectations collide with reality, and the ones that consistently deliver everything Asia is supposed to be. The pattern is always the same. Asia's most famous destinations are famous for real reasons: the Maldives water, the Himalayas, Angkor Wat, the Great Wall. The regret isn't about the places themselves. It's about the system surrounding them, the logistics, the infrastructure, the distance between a marketing image and a travel day, and whether that system holds up under the weight of real expectations. The countries at the top of this list, Georgia, Sri Lanka, Taiwan, Jordan, and Japan, succeed not because they're perfect, but because what they promise and what they deliver are the same thing. That alignment, in travel as in everything else, is rarer than it should be. I want to hear from you. Which of these countries have you visited? Did your experience match what you expected? Drop it in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone planning their first trip to Asia needs to read. If this video was useful, please like and subscribe. It helps us keep making honest, research-based travel content for travelers who want to get it right. Because the best country in Asia isn't the one on every magazine cover. It's the one that fits the way you actually travel.